everyone, and welcome back to my book club. And today I'm doing part 2 of my Oksa Pollock review, the second book in the Oksa Pollock series. Yeah, it's complicated. So Pavel is reunited with everyone else inside the painting. Great. The House Elf tells Abakum that the ink dragon is awakening. Okay. And then they start talking with reminiscence. So we're on chapter 17 at this point. So, and this is the point where Tugdual speaks again. And he starts talking about reminiscence, about how fascinating he thinks she is, that she's Orphan McGraw's twin sister, so she grew up with him, so she must know a lot of stuff. She comes from two very powerful families, so she must have an amazing array of powers, and how she's had the feeling of love sucked out of her. She can no longer experience love because the emotion has been removed from her. So, you know, he's basically introducing reminiscence as a character. Does anyone listen to him? No. Gus tells him to shut up and stop talking a bunch of nonsense. Tugdual says it's okay, you don't have to think it's interesting, I just do. Oksa then has a go at both of them for bickering. Tugdual points out that they're not bickering, they just happen to disagree, which is true. And this is she tells Tugdual, she tells him to shut up because he talks too much. Remember the last time he spoke before they entered the forest, before they even entered the bloody forest, that was the last time he said anything. Yeah, he talks too much. You'd think Gus would be a tiny bit grateful that, you know, Tugdual put himself in danger to come and rescue him. But no, he behaves like a prick, basically. Like, every time he talks to Tugdual, every time Tugdual's around him, he is just mean and for no reason. Like, Tugdual hasn't done anything to him, and he is just mean for him for free. Like, this guy has put himself through all of this to come and save you, and we're not even getting started yet, and you're just being mean. Like, Gus, for God's sakes. So, obviously, at this point, they are in a hurry to get out of the painting, to get back to the real world, you know, and resume their lives and rescue Gus, and also Reminiscence, because she happens to be there. No, they go and take a walk up the hill, because Reminiscence wants to show them the rolling hills. The literal rolling hills, like they actually move, like a sea of hills. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, they get to the top of the hill, and Oksa then asks Reminiscence the question that we're all burning to find out, which is, how did she end up inside the painting? She doesn't ask that. She asks her what no one cares about. Literally, I did not care about this. She asked her why she didn't try and get back in touch with Liamido when she was in the real world, because apparently she was in the non-magical world, same as them. How many people from Edefia left? Like, how many people? There's an awful lot of them just wandering around in the world. Okay. So then Reminiscence launches off into what can essentially be described as her entire life story. That's what she does. She gives her entire biography. Because her and Liamido apparently were in a relationship before they had to leave Edefia. And Liamido is also apparently Zoe's grandfather. So they had a relationship and they had a child. Okay. So she tells her entire, like, from literally year 1 to now. It goes on for 8 pages. It is an 8-page long wall of text that no one asked for. So she talks about how she grew up with Arthur McGraw, obviously, with Dragomira and Liamido, and how when they became older, she and Liamido fell in love and they wanted to be in a relationship, but both their families didn't want them to be in a relationship and tried very hard to keep them apart, to the extent that her family moved away to a different part of the country so that they couldn't see each other, but they carried on seeing each other in secret. Then her brother Orphan found out about their secret relationship and he beat the shit out of her. She then got locked away essentially in her home, and then her father took her to see a monster which sucked out the emotion of love. Then when they left and went into the real world, she followed them. She went to see a concert where Liamido was orchestrating, and she didn't go and talk to him. And then Arthur McGraw found her and threatened her and her son. She told him she had a son, like, even though she knew he was plotting against Liamido and his family. Like, I don't know. So yeah, she's in touch with Orphan McGraw, and she doesn't get in touch with Liamido, and that's it. And once she's through with this 8-page long wall of text, she turns to Oksa and says, "Did I answer your question, dearie?" And then turns to everyone else, and they've all fallen asleep. Obviously they haven't, but God, I really wish that's what happened. Now, my problem with this, apart from that no one asked for any of this, and that it's 8 pages long, and I didn't care, is that she doesn't actually answer Oksa's question. Nothing in anything that she says explains why she didn't get in touch with Liamido. I don't know. So this brings us to chapter 19. Chapter 19, Liamido gets down on his knees in front of her and starts apologising. Now, what the hell has he got to apologise for? He has done nothing wrong. Reminiscence, on the other hand, it turns out that Liamido did not know he'd had a son with her. So he didn't know about his own son, and he didn't know about Zoe, his granddaughter, and she didn't tell him. So he, like, his son is dead, by the way. So he never knew his son. His son is dead. Reminiscence never told him he had a son. And also her son never knew about his dad. Great, they never got to meet. And also, she knew what Orphan McGraw was plotting and did not tell them. She could have told them, she could have warned them, but she didn't. If there's someone who needs to apologise, it's her. She's the one who should be getting down on her knees and doing the apologising. Why is it Liamido? Like so many things in this novel, I don't understand. So then a dark mist or something starts taking over the rolling hills, and they all have to run away and hide in a cave because the butterfly tells them to. Apparently the darkness, like, consumes everything. Again, I thought this darkness was part of the Maleficent's power, like the magic of the painting being... Have no explanation. What was this? And then Oksa's dad sprouts a pair of wings. Wow. So chapter 20, we're back in the real world, like outside of the painting. Dragomira is contemplating what it's been like while they've been away. Apparently 2 weeks have gone by since they've been gone, so time doesn't go by at the same speed inside the painting as it does on the outside. Does this get mentioned at any point? No. You just have to work it out on your own. No explanation as to why or whatever. And then she starts making something. They talk about the enemies that they call the felons trying to get hold of the painting. They have no evidence for this at this point. They have they don't know. Oh, I'm so tired. Anyway, what happens is there are some people who try and come and steal the painting. Some felons come and steal the painting. Only Dragomira creates a decoy painting and hides one of her magical creatures inside it. And chapter 21, this is the magical creature coming back and telling her what it's seen on its journey. Now, I have a complaint to make at this point. These magical creatures, they know a lot, right? They know, like I said, right way back at the beginning, they know way more about what's going on than the humans do. But sometimes it gets a bit overwhelming. They are ludicrously specific about heights, weights, distances, right down to the centimetre. Like, they are that specific. And the problem with it is you just get this, like, overwhelming amount of information. And it could be useful. Like, if the characters actually did something with this information, it could be interesting and useful, but they don't. Like, half the time, it's more than half the time, like 9 times out of 10, it is completely disregarded. So, what annoys me about this is, like, Plichota and Wolf have the ability to be ludicrously over-specific and also ludicrously unspecific. Like, there's so many things that just have no explanation or incredibly vague explanations that you're kind of supposed to piece together on your own. Which one is it? Like, it's not consistent. So basically, the animals are ludicrously specific and know everything. The humans ludicrously unspecific and just make vague assumptions. Okay. So this creature comes back and tells her that it has been taken all the way to Scotland and exactly how many kilometres it's been and how many metres and how many centimetres before it got, what methods of transport it used, boats, moles, worms. Seriously, that's the amount of information we get here. It also tells Dragomira that it got seasick and threw up inside the decoy painting. And obviously Dragomira is sorry that she put her creature through. She doesn't care. In fact, she takes the piss out of it. Like, these characters are so good at taking the piss. It's painful. So this poor creature is describing how horrible this journey was for it, and she's just openly mocking it. Like, Dragomira's a horrible person. And this is not the worst thing she does. So this creature tells her there's a whole bunch of felons from Edefia who've also, again, how many people have fled from this magical world? So chapter 22, obviously the felons realise that they don't have the real painting, so they come back. And turns out Dragomira was wrong. The spy was one of them. It was Mercedica. So Mercedica and 2 other people beat the shit out of Dragomira. Also, Dragomira does what she does in book 1. Like, she hasn't learned her lesson that you need backup for something like this. She waits until everyone's out of the house and decides to face them on her own, again without telling anyone what's going on. She gets the shit beaten out of her. She does. And also, Marie, Oksa's mother, gets abducted. Well done, Dragomira. But they don't find the painting. They don't find the painting because she has found an incredible way of hiding it, which is probably, at least so far, the worst thing she's ever done. It turns out she has given the painting to a 13-year-old boy. One of Oksa's school friends, a boy called Merlin. So she basically went round to his house, promised him that nobody followed her, which isn't the case, because she's so brilliant. Tells him the whole story, gives him the painting, and just leaves. So this 13-year-old boy is now responsible for what is probably the most precious thing in the world, like Oksa. 13-year-old kid, like, wow. So she's essentially put the life of this poor boy in danger, and it is in danger, because turns out Mr. Spy, Mr. Not Very Good Spy, is also waiting outside of Merlin's house, and he breaks into the house and starts wrecking everything and looking for the painting. So Merlin escapes. out of one of the back windows and goes to visit his dad who works at Big Ben. Okay. And he decides to hide the painting at the top of Big Ben on the actual clock face on one of the... Is it a needle? Clock needle? So he ties it onto one of the needles with his shoelace. What could possibly go wrong? What happens if Oksa and her family emerge from the painting at the top of Big Ben? They will turn into pancakes, Merlin. And it'll be your fault, or Dragomira's fault, for giving the painting to a 13-year-old kid. Well done, Dragomira. I don't entirely understand why the spy person doesn't try to abduct Merlin, because again, we still don't know who this person is. Is he one of the felons? Is he someone else? Did he follow Dragomira even though she said that no one followed her? What is going on? What is going on? Hi, this is me from the future. I am filming the rest of this on a completely different day because it's way more work than I expected. So yeah, let's carry on. So chapter 25, we're back in the cave in the painting, and Pavel is having a ink dragon related midlife crisis. So Oksa gets nudged to go over and talk to him, and he tells her about the time he spent in China. Now this kind of thing really makes my brain hurt. He tells her about the time he spent in China in the mountains with a monk who taught him the secrets of martial arts. Is that even a thing? Like, I know nothing about martial arts, okay? And I'm not pretending to be an expert, but a few months, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to think of this, because, like, what part of China, first of all? China's a big place. There's a lot of mountains there. What kind of monk? What kind of martial arts? There's quite a lot of them, as it happens. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I know precious little about this, but I'm guessing, you know, mountain plus China plus monk plus martial arts. I'm guessing this is supposed to make us think of Shaolin. There is a weird obsession with martial arts and ninjas. The word ninja comes up a lot in this book, and I don't know, I'm not quite sure why. But there seems to be this kind of thing about martial arts. So, I don't know, I mean, if we were to say it was somewhere like Shaolin, Shaolin's a really old temple that's been around for centuries. It is a very, very big and important part of Chinese history where they teach a specific kind of martial art which is called Kung Fu. And again, I know nothing about this, but from what I've seen, there are quite a lot of videos from tourists who've been there. You can visit there and the monks perform for the tourists. Just looking at the way these guys move, the way they coordinate their bodies, how fast, how strong they are, that is not something you learn in a matter of months. That is something you learn over years, possibly decades of training every day from dawn till dusk. It's incredible. So what exactly did Pavel learn about the secrets of martial arts? I don't know. He tells Oksa that he suspected the monk knew about the ink dragon, even though they never, like, specifically talked about it, but he understood he had this kind of inner turmoil thing going on. And he's the one who gave him the tattoo. Like, he created this tattoo on his back to channel the dragon's energy or whatever. I don't understand this, because, like, why not just teach Pavel to control the dragon and utilize it instead of hiding it away? Because that seems like a plan that is going to go wrong, and indeed it does go wrong, because now the dragon's coming out on its own with all its devastating power that Pavel is so terrified of. He wonders about whether the monk might have been from Edefia. How many people left this land? Like, how many? But he wonders about it, and I would tend to think that he is, because I looked this up, and turns out tattoos in China are not a thing. So, are there Oriental-looking people in Edefia who practice martial arts and magic tattoos? yeah. So yeah, no. As far, I mean, I looked this up. I wasn't able to find a huge amount of information about the tattoo culture in China, but what I did find out was that apparently in Confucian uh, law or belief, tattoos are frowned upon. Like, you shouldn't modify the body that your parents gave you. Very much like in Christianity, you're not supposed to change the body that God gave you. So tattoos are a no. They're things that criminals had. So if you have, like, in throughout history, if you had a tattoo, you were a member of a criminal organization. Which, interestingly, in French literature, if you're into graphic novels, this is something Corto Maltese got right. Whenever they found like a member of a Chinese triad, they would always look at his tattoo to try and find out what gang he was from. So I'm not quite sure what to make of this. He doesn't explain what the ink tattoo or what the ink dragon is or how he got it. So not a lot of information is shared here. What I thought was weird about this, I think it's trying to, like, supposed to make Pavel look cool. Like, he's this, like, he's Oksa's dad, he's Dragomira's son, which means he's a very powerful man, and he's got this dragon tattoo on his back, and the dragon inside of him, and all this power. I think it's supposed to make him look, like, really cool and really awesome. I just felt like he's being really pathetic here. Like, I don't know, I kind of feel sorry for him, but he doesn't kind of come across as the awesome character I think he is supposed to be, mainly because pretty much the same as Oksa, he isn't really given his chance to shine, which is unfortunate. I think Pavel could be a more interesting character and have more going for him, because, you know, he's torn between his mother and his daughter. Like, whose interest is he supposed to go for? He doesn't agree with Dragomira. He feels like he's being manipulated, which is interesting. We know he's good at magic because of the scene where they went to get the painting, but that's it. He hasn't, like Oksa, he hasn't done anything of any importance. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, Oksa gets bigged up again because she exists. And the butterfly returns. They have this conversation about how the painting realised its mistake when it caught reminiscence. Only because it's been corrupted, it couldn't do anything about it. They talk about the Heartseeker again. And only the Queen of Edefia, the Gracious One, could alter what had happened, so the painting tried to attract Oksa inside it. Which is interesting, because it would appear that Arthur McGraw doesn't have anything to do with this. We also find out how Reminiscence got to be stuck inside the painting. So Arthur McGraw did, he's the one who pushed her inside the painting. And then the painting was trying to rectify its mistake by getting Oksa to come inside of it, which begs the question, why was the painting inside the maths classroom where Arthur McGraw worked? Did he have it there for, like, you know, purposes of reminding himself of his sister? I don't know. So this is odd. It's a bit contradictory to a lot of stuff that's been said, but okay. Also, I thought it was Reminiscence that dragged Gus into the painting, because we see her face in the picture that was on his phone at the beginning, but apparently it's not her. Like, it wasn't her decision to drag Gus into the painting. It was the painting's decision. I'm so confused. And the painting, when it saw Gus, it did not see Gus, like Oksa's DNA on Gus. It saw her queen's instrument, so the magical things that she carries around with her in her school bag, and that she takes to school and then just leaves with someone else. What could possibly go wrong? It also flies in the face of what they were saying at the beginning about Reminiscence being Orthan's twin sister, therefore the painting got their DNAs confused. So what was that conversation all about? Like, a lot of, like, information we're given gets contradicted later on, which is what this whole chapter is, basically. It is so confusing. So yeah, and then they, like, Gus feels really bad about, like, that he's got them all into this mess, and Oksa takes the piss out of him because she's a lovely person. So then the butterfly tells them that they need to move on, like, go travel through the cave because they can't go out where the darkness has engulfed the rolling hills. So they start walking through the cave. Oksa still wants to kill the butterfly, by the way. She's still freaked out by it. Okay. So they start walking. This is chapter 26. They start walking through the caves, and they encounter a group of flying mermaids. And Tugdual's really taken by them, and he recognizes them for what they are, and he's like, oh wow, they're these really dangerous creatures that steal your soul, that, like, apparently they make the person dream, and then they utilize that to steal their souls. They're incredibly, incredibly dangerous. And Gus takes the piss out of Tugdual, obviously, because he's a prick. Like, oh my god, I hate this character so much. And Oksa tells them both to shut up because they're both annoying. They're not. Gus is the one being annoying. And I think Abakum then gives a lecture about what these mermaids are and where they're from, which he always does, by the way, when something happens or some creature comes up. What I don't understand is why Abakum is allowed to do this and not Tugdual. Like, when Tugdual does it, he gets told to shut up. When Abakum does it, it's even more annoying, actually, because Abakum just comes across as, like, the person in a conversation who's like, actually, let me explain this, because, like, I know everything better than you do. That's how he comes across. He is trying to be informative, but because they're trying to, I don't know. But, yeah, anyway, these mermaids, I don't know, they devised this plan for walking through the cave where, like, everyone has to keep an eye on everyone else to make sure they are not being sent into a dream by the mermaids. So they start doing that. There's this great big long list of who has to look after who, and then I don't know, why don't they just run away? Like, run, for God's sake, just start running now and get these mermaids behind you and get to the next level, because it's kind of getting weird. So, chapter 27 is called No Quarters for a reason. Yeah, so they are walking through the tunnel and there's a bunch of stones in the way, and Reminiscent starts complaining because it's hurting her feet. So Oksa conjures up tornadoes to get rid of them and gets bigged up again, because apparently this is a trick that only she, as the future queen of Edefia, could have thought of, because she's so clever. Like, what I'm confused about is why she's wasting her spells to do this, because whatever. And then the mermaids start attacking them. Now, this next bit is, I found really disturbing. The people from Edefia are supposed to be a peaceful people. They are supposed to be peace-loving. They have never had a war. They've never known conflict. They don't eat animals. They are purely vegetarians or vegans, maybe, because they think that, like, killing animals is wrong, and especially as a lot of their animals can talk, obviously they see them in a different way, and they make a big thing about that in book 1, which is like, okay, fine, but that kind of falls apart in this novel, especially with what happens next. Like, they're supposed to respect all life, but they don't. And what happens is really horrible. So the mermaids start attacking. Pavel shows off his martial arts skills by kicking one of them in the face. And then they go into this great big battle And the spells they use on the mermaids are particularly disturbing. They use this thing which makes their skin putrefy, so they basically die of putrefaction. Wow. They use like flames which cook them alive, and kind of blades, I guess, that slice them in half. And at the end of all this, Pavel turns himself into a dragon for a very brief moment to save Oksa. And I thought this was confusing because I thought he was unable to control the ink dragon, but he kind of snaps into it, flames the mermaid, and then becomes human again, and then starts apologizing for saving the queen of their land and the only key for getting back home. What is it with these men who apologize all the time? Like Liam Meadow with Reminiscence, he had nothing to apologize for. And now Pavel is apologising for saving his daughter and the hope for them returning home. Why? I don't get it. Why? So anyway, after that, we have a very distressing paragraph where we get a description of what they can see after the battle. So some of the mermaids are basically decomposed. Others are still sizzling after being cooked, and others are like cut in half with like the tail still flicking on its own. These are the good guys. These are the people we are supposed to be rooting for in this novel. These are the peace-loving, vegetarian, vegan, people who respect all life. But they are willing to cast spells on their opponents that make them decompose while they are still alive. I'm starting to wonder about Edefia and how perfect this land is supposed to be. Because why would you need to create spells like this that are really cruel if you are a peace-loving and peaceful people? I'm not entirely sure why they have these spells in the first place. Chapter 28. It turns out the mermaids aren't dead, which honestly made me kind of happy because that's no way to die. And so they come back, but they kind of multiply. There's many, many more of them. So when you like kill one, you get two that resurrect. Which honestly, yeah, I mean, go for it, mermaids. Just go for these people. So, and that is the moment when they start running, when it's too late, basically. They're vastly outnumbered by all of these mermaids. Pavel gives Oksa a lecture, like there's more stating the obvious, and Pavel gives Oksa a lecture about how she shouldn't get enthralled by the mermaids because they lie and what they're showing her in their dreams isn't true. Oksa had a dream which reminded me of the one Clary had in the last book of the Mortal Instruments series, where she sees Jocelyn and Valentine and Jace, like they're all grown up and they're all living together. Oksa has a similar kind of dream where she sees Gus as an adult. So I'm not quite sure why this was in there because it's not really mentioned again. Yeah, like so much stuff in this. Things happen, things occur, and then they are never mentioned again, and we never find out what they were there for. Because like when Pavel was in the forest and he saw Oksa with the hair, I thought this was the Maleficents kind of playing tricks with his mind. It wasn't. That's not how they work. And then also when like the darkness was taking over the rolling hills, again I thought that was the Maleficents at work, but apparently it's not. So when we actually get to see the Maleficents at the end, they don't function like that. So what was all that about? It gets very odd. This chapter, like the mermaids obviously attack them tenfold, and they start attacking Gus most of all, which honestly, just let him die. Like I don't care about him at this point. He's a horrible, horrible character. just let him die. He's just mean for free. He whines and moans all the time. Doesn't matter. But obviously they don't want him to die. They don't want him to get his soul taken away. So they're all running and like, oh my god, he's gonna die. We can't let him die. And blah, blah, blah. So one of their number decides to sacrifice themselves in order to save him. And that person is, of course, Lila the House Elf, because it can't be one of the humans. And the terrible thing is, like, Oksa's there, like, no, Gus can't die, no. And then she realises what Lila wants to do. And she's completely, like, she falls silent. And they all kind of look at each other and like, okay, Gus can't die, but Lila, that's fine. She can die, perfect. So Lila goes away and gets taken by the mermaids, and afterwards the mermaids leave them alone. Yeah. This poor creature whose life was basically summed up in this moment to sacrifice herself to save the human beings. Yeah, what I don't understand is all of this was supposed to be designed for Arthur McGraw. How was Arthur McGraw supposed to get past these mermaids if the only way to get past them was to sacrifice a member of the group? He would have gone into that cave, maybe started fighting them, and then they would have resurrected, and then he would have died because there was no one with him to sacrifice. There normally can't be more than one person in the painting at once. There's a conversation with a butterfly later on where it explains that these mermaids were supposed to take Arthur McGraw back to a very traumatic moment in his past for him to learn how to deal with it and get over it. Which was that moment apparently being the turning point for him, which turned him evil. But all of this, like, they talk about him a lot. Like, I kind of imagine that this may be foreshadowing, trying to tell us that he's still alive. But getting back to Lila, poor little Lila, so they're all kind of gathered round her dead body in solemn contemplation, but only one of them seems genuinely devastated by her passing away, and that person is Tugdual. Of course it is, because he's the only one who doesn't only have an ounce of common sense, but also an ounce of humanity. At this point, I want to start a petition. I want to start a movement in support of Tugdual being king of Edefia, because Oksa doesn't deserve it. Oksa doesn't deserve to be queen. She doesn't deserve the crown. She is a stupid teenager who's useless, but Tugdual, on the other hand, he's the one I want to be. If I were to choose between the two of them, I would choose Tugdual. He's way smarter. He's just so much better in every regard. Tugdual for king! Chapter 29 in French is called Point d'interrogation en pagaille, which means like a plethora of interrogation marks, which is how I feel about this entire novel. I have so many questions. So after Tugdual buries Lila, he gets a stone and digs her grave. It's not mentioned that any of the other characters help him with this, so like he's the only one who is willing to actually mourn the little house elf and also dig a grave for her, and all the others just stand around watching. I don't know. So yeah, in chapter 29, one of the magical creatures tells them that the painting has changed location. So it's no longer in Dragomira's study. He doesn't tell them that it's the top Big Ben, but he gives them geographic locations. It's so many yards from the Thames, and it's so many meters up in the air. And they start obviously trying to figure out where this could possibly be. They don't do anything with this information, which is so frustrating because these magical creatures are ridiculously specific about locations, about how many miles they've travelled, about where they've gone, and how many meters up in the air, and how many degrees it is. And it's so packed full of information. And it's frustrating because it would be useful if the characters actually did something with this information, but 9 times out of 10 they don't. They're just like, oh, okay, well, we'll see about that later. If you're going to be leaving the painting, ideally you want to kind of try and work out where you are, but apparently not. And then we get an explanation about why the mermaids are inside the painting. Like, apparently they got banished and sent there, and I don't know. And we get another, we get a Chinese cookie quote, as there are so many of them in this book, from Abakum, who tells them that there's nothing more important than knowing your origins and knowing where you came from. Chapter 30 is really not very interesting. Nothing happens in it apart from that Oksa gets recognised by all the creatures in the painting because she exists. I don't know. This is so annoying. Like, I hate being told that a character is great when there is nothing to justify it. She has still done nothing of any importance. Anything she has done was there, like, with her family guiding her. She has done nothing on her own. She has not made any decisions on her own. She is just, like, worshipped by everyone and everything. Not just her family, like, all the creatures as well. Like, that are outside of the Pollock clan. A bloody painting. Turns out, apparently Gus is there to, like, he doesn't have any magical powers, but apparently he's there to balance Oksa's temperament. Okay, and I guess he kind of serves as some kind of punching ball, because then she yells at him again. Oksa and Gus are just, yeah, I don't like these characters. I don't like them. So Tugdual says when he realises they have to journey through an ash desert, there's no water there, and there are these massive great big cracks that apparently have no bottom to them. So Tugdual suggests that they get moving now to get through this as fast as possible, which is really good advice, by the way. He is absolutely right. They need to keep moving. They need to get out of this painting. That's the whole point. But Gus, once again, has a go at him for being negative and like, oh, but it's so nice here. Why would we go through the ash desert? I don't know, Gus. You tell me. Why would you want to get out of the painting? I don't know. Pavel, I think it's Pavel, actually comes in and defends Tugdual by saying, oh, he's right. So Pavel apparently developing a few brain cells as well here. Character development, people. Interesting. There's a lot to develop. It's happening. And then Oksa has a go at him and is like, no, but it's so nice here. I want to stay here with all the fruit trees and the water. And just... Is that the challenge? Like, leaving the paradise-esque level to enter the ash desert? Is that what the challenge is? I don't know. I don't get most of this, but yeah. They all get bigged up again, because that's all that happens in this. There's pages of it this time. There's like 2 pages of everyone's powers and why they're there and why they're important. There are too many characters in this novel. There are too many characters, and I don't like the fact that Oksa is not allowed to emancipate herself from her family. She should have gone into this painting on her own to save Gus on her own, or maybe with Tugdual. But, you know, like I said before, it would have made a way more interesting story. But no, like, she's always there, like, being supported by her family. It doesn't leave her room to grow as a character. She needs to have some kind of adversity that she has to figure out a way to deal with on her own. She can't move forward in this environment she's in, and it makes the story and the character incredibly boring. So chapter 32 is called Subtraction of the Half, and it takes place back in the real world with Dragomira, who is licking her wounds and feeling sorry for herself because she let Marie be abducted, and I don't understand why she tried to fight them on her own. Like, why didn't she wait for the other women to be around? Because obviously they would have helped. So Dragomira appears to be nowhere near as powerful as she thinks she is, which is interesting. So yeah, it also would have made for a more epic story had the other women been there and they'd like all fought the felons together and Marie got abducted anyway. It would have been more interesting. Because like Dragomira had to face off 4 people. Obviously she was gonna get, like, obviously she wasn't gonna win. Like, come on. And she actually seems to know this. She's sort of sitting on a couch and saying, "Oh God, it's all my fault, and I've failed you all." And so she appears to be developing as a character as well. She appears to be learning from her mistakes and moving on and realizing she's not as great as she thinks she is, and she needs to maybe take a step back. That's short-lived. That's very short-lived because Barry the House Elf comes up and is like, "Oh no, it's not your fault, and you couldn't have known," and blah blah blah. So at this point they start wondering why Barry looks so pale and ill, and he knows that Lila is dead. So obviously he's really sad about that. And Dragomira actually feels bad because they both knew in advance apparently that Lila was going to die inside the painting, and Dragomira feels bad for not asking them about this. But then the house elves, Barry says some stuff that is just it's hard because he tells them that there was no way of avoiding Lila's death because she was chosen by destiny to die in order to save one of the humans. So she didn't have a choice in her decision to sacrifice herself in order to save Gus's life, which is so depressing. Because apparently when it comes to sacrificing their own lives, they don't, like, this isn't a decision that she made. It was made for her by some higher power. How depressing is that? I don't know. So anyway, oh my god, and the other magical creatures just totally take the piss. Like, one of them says, "Oh yeah, hurry up and getting over it so you can go and make me a sandwich." And Barry like sighs and goes into the kitchen to make the sandwich. Like, empathy is a thing, people. You loving, kind people of Edefia and all your wonderful creatures. Try and have a bit of heart for this poor house elf who apparently doesn't have any say in what happens with his own life. Like, my god. So anyway, everyone starts sulking, and Barry tells them that someone else is gonna die before they leave the painting. So another human, apparently, one of the humans this time is gonna die. Please be it be Gus. Please is it Gus? Oh my god, I want it to be Gus, because he's the one I hate the most. Obviously it's not going to be Oksa. It could be Gus. One can hope. And then we have the end of the chapter from Zoe's perspective, where she is thinking about reminiscence, obviously her grandma, because maybe she's going to be the one to die, we don't know, and also Liamido, and it says her newfound grandfather. Does she know that Liamido... How does she know that Liamido is her grandfather? Because the people inside the painting got this information from from Reminiscence. There's so many characters, I'm starting to lose track. So the people inside the painting know this because Reminiscence told them. But how does Zoe know? This is another thing that annoys me about this book is all the characters know, they seem to have one collective mind for all information. Like, information that goes to one character, even though it is just told to one character, then seems to be widespread amongst all the others. Somehow Zoe knows that Leomido's her grandfather. But apparently she didn't. Did she know this before he went into the painting? I'm so confused. I don't know. The next chapter, chapter 33, is from Zoe's perspective, which is the first time this happens. And we finally get to find out why and how she came to be living with the Oksa family, with the Pollock family. And she's reminiscing about her time when she was living with Orphan McGraw and his wife Barbara and their son Mortimer, and how they were really, really nice to her. They just took her in after Reminiscence disappeared and her dad died, and they were like a second family to her, and she was really happy there. She witnessed Orphan and Barbara arguing about something called Edefia, which she thought was Orphan's mistress. Okay. But it would appear she didn't know about Edefia either, because why tell the children, as we've already discussed. And so my question is, did she know that the soap she gave Oksa was poisoned? Because it would appear she didn't. Like, I assumed in book one that she was aware of what Orphan was up to and what, Mortimer, because Mortimer was in on it, definitely, but not Zoe. Weird. So did she or did she not know the soap was poisoned? I don't know. So then one day she comes home to find Barbara and Mortimer crying. So this was presumably the day Orphan was murdered or killed by Abakum. And then they leave, like she comes down the next morning, there's no one there. Mortimer says they're going to come back for her, but she ends up spending weeks alone in their home. And obviously doesn't call the police, because why would you when your family has disappeared? So she spends all this time alone in the house before remembering what Reminiscence told her, that she could always go and stay with Dragomira and the Pollocks. So she does that. She ends up coming to Dragomira's door. There's a description of her, like, Dragomira finds her on the doorstep and she says, like, she's dirty and haggard. How far did she travel? Because Orphan, he worked in the school where Oksa was going to, and Mortimer attended that school as well, and so did Zoe. So they can't have lived that far away. Like, she must have lived in London. So I'm not entirely sure why she has this haggard appearance, but okay. She says that Oksa at the beginning was really kind of wary of her, but then, they became friends, and Zoe says, she learned to love Oksa because, in her own words, how can you not like Oksa? I can give you a whole bunch of reasons if you like. Chapter 34 isn't very interesting. It's just them talking about who the felons are and how Marie... They can't possibly kill or hurt Marie because they need her. Of course they can hurt her. Like... Why wouldn't, maybe they won't kill her, but there's nothing to say they won't try and do her any harm, because you can hurt someone without killing them, and that they could even do that to try and put pressure on their opponents. So, but they're all like, nah, they're not gonna hurt her, because I worry about these characters and how just unable they are to understand that people may have bad intentions. But according to, Dragomira's magical creature, it would appear Marie is being well looked after by a bunch of people who came from Edefia and their descendants. Again, how many people left? How many of them are there? There are so many people from Edefia in the real world. Who's back there? Who's ruling since the coup? Yeah. So chapter 35, Zoe sees a strange, blurry shape which she thinks is looks like Orphan. So apparently it would appear that I was right. He's not dead. This is also the chapter where the rest of the Pollocks, or the ones that aren't inside the painting, that is, find out that Dragomira has no idea where the painting is because she left it with a 13-year-old boy that we later on find out has haemophilia. Yeah. So a boy who could die by pricking his finger on a rose bush. But, they all think it's a really good idea. I hate these people. They are so stupid. They are so ridiculous. Chapter 36. Zoe has to go back to school and Dragomira takes her there. There's this weird conversation with the headmaster because in book one of the teachers was attacked by Orphan and had severe mental health issues, and Dragomira apparently is the one who cured her with her herbal magical potions, apparently. And the headmaster obviously doesn't understand this. He thinks that she cured her with homeopathy. So there's another moment that I'm not sure or not whether it's supposed to be funny, where he's like thanking her for curing the teacher and being like, oh, I'm now a big fan of homeopathy. Now, as an adult, it's possible to understand that this is a joke, that this man obviously doesn't understand that Dragomira was using magic. He thinks it was herbal remedies. But when this is a kid's book, and kids don't know that homeopathy is bullshit. They don't know that it doesn't work, or if it does, it's like placebo effect. So this is quite dangerous for a reader to think, oh, homeopathy is a good thing because Dragomira uses it and she's my favourite character, so I'm going to use it as well. You need to be careful about this kind of thing when you're writing kids' stories. So Zoe goes back to school. There's a whole bit about how she feels bad because Orphan's dead and she misses him and she can't talk about it. She meets up with Merlin. And Merlin kind of has a moment, look with, this kind of, secret exchange, visual exchange with Dragomira. He seems immensely proud of being a part of this plan. This is so awkward. This poor kid, he's 13, and he's got such a big responsibility. I really feel for him. Poor little Merlin, he is just being manipulated by Dragomira, who doesn't have a clue what to do, who can't find a decent hiding place for this bloody painting, so she gave it to him. Poor little thing, and his life is probably in danger. Oh, it's painful. Zoe goes back and sees Merlin and also another one of their friends, Zelda, who doesn't do anything in this novel, but remember her because she'll pop up later on. So the only thing that happens in this chapter is Hilda, the school bully, is nice now. That's it. So, chapter 38, we're back inside the painting, and Oksa's party are now travelling through the Ash Desert, which is great because we finally have some kind of suspense, something vaguely exciting is finally happening. So they walk through the Ash Desert. They realise after a point that all their water and provisions have gone, and it's all really hard. And they start whining. Oksa says that they should keep on going, and Tugdual agrees with her. She thinks he's taking the piss for some reason. And then she starts pleading for help, and the painting reacts. The painting answers her plea by singing a song. And Abercrombie recognises this song as the song that they, the Pollock clan, wrote when she got her Queen mark in book 1. So they all start singing the song. How did the painting know about this song? What's it doing inside the painting? Is my question. So anyway, it's a hymn to glorify Oksa as everything is in this book. Yeah, so she starts feeling embarrassed and thinking that she is unworthy of this hymn, of this great honour they are doing for her, because she hasn't done anything of any importance. And she is absolutely right. She hasn't done anything of any importance, and she is completely undeserving of this. Well done, Oksa. So anyway, they keep moving on. Gus starts whining again, and eventually they decide to utilize Oksa's ability to make it rain when she's angry. So she tries to make herself angry, only it doesn't really work. She just ends up feeling sad. So Tigdual decides to have a go at Gus, and he really does have a good go at Gus until Oksa gets so angry with him that she punches him in the face. And you know, he is really quite mean. He says that he's useless, that nothing ever good happens when he's around. And the worst thing is, I kind of understand where he's coming from, because like, he must be so frustrated at this kid who is always basically having a go at him for any ridiculous and stupid reason. And then Oksa punches him in the face. He took one for the team. Well done, Tugdual. Where I respect him a bit less is there's one point where he says, oh, Edefia is ours because Oksa wills it. What the hell does that even mean? If anything. So, I don't know, Tugdual kind of went down in my esteem there for a moment. So then it starts raining and they're all like really happy and they got water and yay, it's all splashes and yeah, happy. Only this wakes up a giant lizard creature, which is, because obviously Abakum gives them a lecture about this. Apparently it's like a genetically engineered creature that was made using the genes of lions and chameleons. So they call it a Leozard. God help us all. So this huge, great monster comes out of the ground and starts attacking them. And then we get another fight scene like the one with the mermaids, which was already disturbing enough, only this one it gets so much worse. Their spells don't work against the hide of these creatures because it is so thick. So they try the putrefaction spell, that doesn't work. They try throwing flames at them, that doesn't work. One thing that does work, however, is to throw acid at them, which makes them dissolve, like, again, while they're still alive. So the book actually says that once this procedure was over, there was nothing left except bleach white bones. So again, these are the good guys, and they kill their enemies by using acid on living creatures. Again, are you peace loving? I have my doubts about Edefia. I'm starting to believe Pavel, with his doubts about what the elders of the Pollock clan actually want. What are they hiding? What are they not telling us? These creatures were apparently genetically engineered. For what purpose? Because clearly they are monsters who just want to eat, which it's kind of understandable. They've been stuck in this fucking painting since God knows when, and they're probably starving. So can you really blame them for being a bit peckish? I don't, personally. I don't. Tugdual gets accused of being morbid again, which he isn't in this, or maybe, I think it happens in this chapter. But he's not morbid, he's realistic. The one character that is morbid and never gets any hate thrown at them for it is the chicken creature, Susie. she's always the first one to be like, oh my god, we're gonna die. Like, when she sees the monsters, she's like, oh my god, we're gonna die. That's it. There's no hope. That is what morbidity is. Tugdual's not like that. Tugdual actually tries to find solutions. He looks reality straight in the face in order to think of something, to save them, to get out of it. So they have this horrible, horrible, gruesome battle where, also beautiful descriptions. One of the creatures gets sent up in the air and then comes crashing down and explodes. It says it falls with an explosion of blood and entrails. How poetic. All of this happens. They destroy these creatures, leaving nothing but bleached white bones with acid. Thank you for that. And then we get to chapter 43. Gus falls down a ravine! Yes, finally, something good actually happens. Obviously it doesn't last long. So here's the thing. He falls down this ravine and they're all kind of trying to figure out how they can get him out of here. What I don't understand is he falls a really long way. He falls a really, really, really long way. I'm trying to find it. He's on a slab that is... because obviously one of the magical creatures, who is ludicrously specific about centimeters, tells them that he is on a slab that is 55 centimeters long, 32 centimeters wide, that isn't very thick, with a thickness of about 5 centimeters, but that Gus's weight, which he doesn't specify, isn't enough to make it fall, that he has no injuries other than a few superficial ones, and then he tells them that he is 463 meters down. I have two questions. The first one is, how did, with the accumulated amount of energy he would have had plummeting down that distance, how did the slab not snap? Because it's only that thick. It's made of something super strong. Okay. My second question is, how did he not turn into a pancake on impact? When you fall 40 meters, you turn into a pancake. He has fallen 460 meters. How is he not a pancake? How is he still alive? How has he only got a few scratches? Do the laws of gravity not work the same way in this world? Because we know that time doesn't work the same way, but gravity, as far as we can tell, it would appear to be the same as in the real world. So how do you explain this? Gus has no magical powers. He can't levitate. He wasn't caught in any kind of vacuum or updraft or nothing that's mentioned. So, are these people just immune to death by some way? Because obviously he's not. He almost got killed by the mermaids. I don't know how to explain this. So, anyway, they need to go down and rescue him, and he's obviously screaming, come and help me, oh my god, I'm gonna die, whine, because it's Gus. Tugdual then decides to go and get him because his powers allow him to climb down the rock, Spider-Man fashion, and go and rescue Gus. So, chapter 44 is interesting. It's interesting because it's, I think, the only moment in the book that is from Tugdual's perspective. And it's dark. It's dark because he starts off by saying, unlike what everybody thinks, he doesn't hate Gus. I can't remember anyone actually saying that at any point, but okay. He says that Gus exasperates him, which I completely get. Same. Honestly, I get it, dude. And then he says that he is a source of problems, and he thinks that he is a problem for Oksa because he's putting her in danger, which clearly he is. Like, he got sucked into this bloody painting, which was not entirely his fault, but still, He's always whining and moaning, which isn't... He doesn't mention Gus's actual behaviour, which I think he could have done, because Gus is such a prick. Like, he's... Oh... so then he goes on, and it turns out he's talking about the friendship, the deep friendship that Oksa has with Gus, and how he kind of regrets not being able to have that kind of connection with someone. And then he says he can't have friends, he'll never have friends, because he is too strange and too different. In what way? I would like to know. Because he's more intelligent than anyone else? Is he... I was going to say he's like Zadig, but he's not, because Zadig does have moments when he's respected for his intelligence before being cast out. Tugdual is not respected for anything, which makes me sad. He vaguely reminisces about the time when he was a cult leader, and I would really quibble with the term cult leader at this point, because he says that he was surrounded by weak, influenceable people who saw him as the incarnation of black magic and idolized him. And then he asked, could you really call these people friends? And then he said they were more like puppets. So he was idolized by a bunch of people, and did he manipulate them? Is that why he calls them puppets? Because he doesn't really have a manipulative nature, so, or at least not up to this point. So did he truly manipulate people? Or was he more like a cult leader who tries to be benevolent, like the ones who truly believe that what they're doing is good? Like, he had magical powers. He believed that that came from the rituals he was performing, and he wanted others to have, like, these magical powers as well, according to what Abakum said in book 1. It's not clear. So all of that stopped at some point. He doesn't talk about that either. He says his own parents gave up on him and gave him to his grandparents, and that none of the Pollock clan liked him, but they just tolerated him because they respected his grandparents. Okay? And the only one who took him under his wing was Abakum, so that's new information. I didn't know that Abakum had taken Tugdual under his wing for anything apart from just not being as mean as him as everyone else is. He says he doesn't suffer from the hostility, but yeah, that's it really. But it's interesting because he the way he talks about his past, like he seems to understand that what he did was wrong, or does he? I don't know. He doesn't really talk about regretting any of it. But he talks about how different he is. It's so weird. This is so weird. And it also makes me sad because, you know, here's someone who has had a traumatic past, like this terrible, like his own parents gave up on him because he was a difficult teenager, when it was their own fucking fault because they didn't tell him he had magical powers in the first place. They hid their entire existence from him. There was Abakum a few pages ago saying, oh, it's really important to know your origins and know where you came from. Well, they didn't tell that to Tugdual's parents, obviously, or even Pavel and Dragomira, because they didn't tell Oksa either. So can he really be blamed for believing that his magic came from ritual and starting a cult because he thought that other people could have these magical powers as well? He would have been about 13 years old at this point. Can you really blame him for this as a 13-year-old boy? But no, his parents gave up on him because of something that is their fault. They are responsible for this. And instead of making amends for that, they just chucked him out, gave him to his grandparents, and now everybody hates him. For what? Why do they hate him so much? There is no reason for them to hate him. They should be supportive of him. Why aren't they so supportive of Oksa? They are so fucking supportive of Oksa for no reason. But not him. Why? He needs support. He needs encouragement. And thank God he is intelligent enough to know that he is deserving and he can make his own way on his own. He should be king. I got a bit carried away there. I do apologise. Let's try and do this again. Calm. Okay. So he climbs, Tugdual climbs down the hole and goes to retrieve Gus. So he climbs down all 463 metres, gets to Gus, and then is Gus grateful? Of course he isn't. He takes the piss. And then Tugdual's like, dude, if you're not happy, you know, I can just climb up without you, like... And Gus does actually start again and says, look, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for coming down to get me. So finally, Gus actually has some form of, you know, thankful words for one of the people who is risking their lives in order to come and save his miserable person. But it needs to be plucked out of him, so... Okay for that. So he creates a ladder with his magic and gets Gus out of the hole. And he there's 50 meters missing, so he puts him on his back and gets him out. And then finally they get to the top and everyone's really happy and there's all a bunch of thank you, oh my god, wow, that's amazing. And Oksa comes to congratulate Tugdual, only he's like, yeah, can I just sit down for a moment? Because, like, I'm really knackered. I've just climbed down 400 meters, and climbed up again, 50 of which are with another boy on my back. So let me sit down for a bit. Then, you know, they're still stuck in the desert, and then they see a bunch of tornadoes, and they have to go up one tornado, and it leads them back to the forest. Yay! So, my question is, once again, how the hell was Arthur McGraw supposed to get through this on his own? What was the desert supposed to teach him? Because, like, had he come face to face with the Leozards, had he come face to face with those, there was tens of 20, 30 of them. Like, how was he supposed to fight them on his own? He didn't have an acid thrower. I don't even want to think about that. But yeah, what was he supposed to learn from that? And also falling down a ravine. Had he fall down the ravine, how was he supposed to get out of it? So it would seem that this world has been specifically catered to Oksa and her party rather than Orphan. So the theory would be that the Heartseeker modified the world according to the people who were in it. However, it would appear according to the butterfly and the raven, the Heartseeker is no longer working. I am so confused by this novel. Just so confused. Yeah, I'm about chapter 45 out of 62, I think. So I've got less than 20 chapters to go. So we're almost there. So I'll make one more video. This review, turns out, will be in 3 parts. It's been way longer than I thought it would be, so apologies for that. It's been very exhausting, but yeah, I'll try and get that done soon. So I'll see you all then. Bye-bye.